Table of Contents. Forward. Chapter 1, Shooter Game Basics. Chapter 2, Optimize. Chapter 3, Targeting. Chapter 4, Weapons. Chapter 5, Maps. Chapter 6, Practicing. Chapter 7, Single Play or Multiplay. Chapter 8, Tournaments. Chapter 9, The Best Shooter Games. Chapter 10, Learning to Separate These Games from Reality. Forward. What makes most shooting games interesting and fun to play? Like lots of other kinds of arcade games, shooting games offer a very entertaining and fun way of spending few minutes or hours depending on your time availability. But the overall attractiveness of this kind of game is definitely its simplicity as compared to other kinds of games requiring players to complete multiple objectives and goals in order to achieve game success. The basic idea and concept of shooting games is simple: aim and fire. These basic actions test the ability of the player to synchronize eye and hand movement to target and hit what they see. While simply being able to hit the target gives the players that wonderful sense of achievement, it's the skill testing that majority of the players continues to seek. If you are looking to release some tension or just looking to have some fun, shooting games have made it easier to entertain yourself. There are actually lots of shooting games available nowadays, especially on the internet. Players do have a wide variety of shooting games to choose from depending on their level of skills and expertise in this field. Shooting Tips for Gamers. Chapter 1. Shooter Game Basics. Synopsis. Shooting games are one of the first popular video games. Many from the early console and arcade games focus on the job of shooting or attacking enemies, whether they're potted plants or spaceships. There are lots of things and items that you can shoot in video shooting games, and it is a tradition that's been continued all through the gaming evolution. No one actually minds this trend, either. Shooting games, indeed, are one of the most famous genres of online gaming, and they really show no sign of slowing down. The basics of shooting games. One of the simplest yet challenging games is shooting games. In such games, players don't have to do anything other than to destroy all the enemies using guns or other types of weapons that shooters use. These games are sometimes considered as excellent strategy games, and in most cases, players should have to be equipped with military skills to be a master in these games. To state the obvious, players don't need to be soldiers or police to enjoy and appreciate these games. And you don't even need to know exactly how to make use of guns at all. In any shooting game, you're already a learned gunman. You just need to direct the shots to targets for you to win. It's that simple. Do not laugh, but lots of studies and researchers have indicated that there are lots of benefits associated with shooting games. The overwhelming number of individuals who do not understand these games instantly assume that games in this genre contribute to the violence in the society. Furthermore, it's assumed that these games somehow influence the people to act and behave poorly. But this is far from the truth. Among the different benefits of shooting games include the fact that players learn a wider range of effective critical thinking and reasoning skills. This is definitely something that lots of people do not understand. For instance, imagine yourself enjoying any sniper game. It is not about shooting bullets as many as you can in any random directions in hopes of hitting a target. Instead, this game requires you to use lots of critical and strategic thinking. This only means that you'll spend your time doing basic calculations in order to aid you in determining whether you can or can't hit your target. Even when you're playing multiplayer shooting games that are fast paced, you are potentially improving your eye-hand coordination. This is definitely something that lots of studies and researchers have shown. So, what you need is to begin playing some shooting games for yourself. You have to see it with your eyes what the excitement and fun is about. It's just a matter of finding which shooting games will suit your personal preference. The choices are actually quite limitless online. Remember, shooting games are fun ways of slipping into fantasy and adventure for a while and to pass time in a harmless and fun way. Chapter 2. Optimize. Synopsis. Over the years, shooter games have compelled and attracted thousands and even millions of players across the different parts of the globe. There are lots of such games that are available nowadays, most especially online. These games offer different experiences to the players, making them more and more popular, especially to those avid gamers. The joy of enjoying and playing shooting games isn't simply about learning how to shoot straight. But, you have to basically come up and think of excellent and effective strategies that don't just keep you alive in the game but also ensuring your success in the mission. If you really want to be a good shooter while you enjoy shooting games, you have to set first your priorities. Your main goal of playing must be to succeed or win the game. Strategies that will make you become a good shooter in shooting games. Whether you are into the excitement behind chasing any moving targets of the entertainment and fun you'll get when you make a big catch, shooting games will always be known as the kind of excellent games that can offer complete excitement. Some may find shooting games difficult to play, but others are natural with such games. Well, if you want to be effective in this kind of games, here are some effective strategies that can help you get the best from these games. Optimize your setting. The first step you need to take before you play any shooting game is to essentially adjust your setting to the one that favors you. You can try to adjust brightness of your screen for you to see the objects clearly. Tune the X and Y axis sensitivity and inverted look as well. Keep adjusting the setting as you easily become more familiar with the game. Meet the mark. One of the basic rules in shooting games is that you should make every shot worthwhile. Unless you actually meant the shot is suppression fire, randomly firing the enemy can do something to make you win. One of the most common mistakes that shooters make is pulling the trigger quite too soon. Don't try to fire until you've locked on your target. Many shooting games show the players when the shot's on target. Aim every shot towards the fatal area of your enemy. Choose weapons wisely. In any shooting games, your weapons are often your best partner. Thus, you need to choose what weapons you use. Choose one that you find easy to handle and carry. Some shooting games will allow you to equip one or more weapons. You can actually use such ability for your advantage. You can try using different weapons in different situations or scenarios. Observe every detail on your screen. When you are playing a shooting game, you should know the enemies are. The screen usually displays map that can show you the enemy lines so that you'll be able to approach with needed caution. The choice of shooting games available is large. You can also choose from a lot of hunting games online. The choice is quite limitless online, so you don't have to worry about not finding a game that will suit your personal preference, skills, and level of expertise. Chapter 3. Targeting. Synopsis. Shooting games are one of the most sought after and popular video games available nowadays. The fact that these games don't need experts and geniuses to be played make it an all-time favorite, since it's basically about having so much fun trying to shoot stuff with the use of a virtual gun. If you are fond of playing these games, then you should consider the different essential elements and factors that you should learn and master. And one of these essential factors is targeting. As you improve more and more in your targeting skills, you're on your way to being an expert in shooter games. If you cannot hit them, you are toast. Among the most basic rules in shooting games is to make every shot counts. Firing aimlessly to enemies does nothing unless it's specifically intended as a suppression fire, as the common practice on tactical shooters. One of the most common factors that many gamers find intimidating and difficult is targeting or aiming their weapons. A shooting game is basically all about maneuvering the terrain as well as firing the weapon efficiently, most especially in a competitive play. Improve your targeting by tweaking your game setting as well as your playing style. One of the most common mistakes that gamers often make is firing quite too soon. Well, you should never fire your weapon not until you actually have one clear shot and if you are not too sure that you can actually gain kill. But before you can do this, you should definitely improve your targeting skills in shooting games. You can't expect yourself to be a master in this game right the first time, right? Well, you need to practice, play more, and practice again. It's all about gaining more and more experiences. Through this, your targeting skill will be improved. Chapter 4. Weapons. Synopsis. Shooting games are the type of games that basically require players to use a wide array of weapons in order for them to fight her way all through whatever enemies they encounter and come across for them to proceed and not die. This is typically the main goal of the shooting game. These shooter games are ideal for those gamers who are fond of and are very thrilled by action-packed and thrilling, adrenaline-pumping gaming actions that only shooter games can deliver. A big job needs a big weapon. In the world of online shooting games, overkill is basically a concern. So, the question is, how will you gauge whether those weapons according to your choice are the ideal weapons or just flat out unintelligent? It's simple. You just need to ask yourself if these weapons or firearms will be a true benefit on battlefield, or if those weapons are assured mass destruction. If your weapons of choice allow you to positively, absolutely kill every enemy in the game and let you walk away well done and clean, then your weapons are calibrated correctly. If by using that specific weapon would likely to destroy the enemy, yourself, everyone and almost everything in a 300-mile radius, leaving only steaming craters filled with charcoal and glass, then you should definitely watch out. There is a high chance that you are equipped with one of the shooter game's most ludicrously and extremely impractical weapons. Your choice of weapons in a shooter game will make or break your gaming experience. It can influence how effective of a player you can be during the game. Specific weapons are basically designed for specific things, and utilizing an excellent weapon that can complement your own playing style can definitely aid you in racking up your points. You will find that majority, if not literally, all shooter games have similar categories of weapons. In a shooting game, you will usually encounter weapons that are commonly called as assault type of weapons. These are guns that is considered jacks of all trades and a good all-rounder. Usually, such weapons have decent rates of good accuracy and fire over the medium distances. Because of these weapons' versatility, they're generally the kind of guns that are used and preferred most often. Another one of the most common, old faithful weapons is the pistol, or sidearm, type of gun. These weapons are mostly small, quite weak guns that are being used as backup to the main weapon. In general, they do not do many damages and are usually being used as last resort, especially if the ammo of the main gun has run out. However, these weapons are extremely accurate over short distances, not to mention that they can actually make the difference from losing or winning the gunfight. Some common realistic shooting games offer SMG gun or submachine gun. These weapons are smaller versions of the assault type of weapons. In physical, they are much smaller guns that have great accuracy over short distances to mid distances. In addition to that, they are also less powerful, however, they are more capable in some close quarters gunfights because of their utmost accuracy. Another common type of weapons that you can see in most shooter games is the sniper type of gun. These weapons are generally designed for long-range, accurate shooting. And they normally have sufficient amount of power to easily drop your enemy with just 1 or 2 bullets. Sniper weapons in general, if not always, have smaller capacity and slower fire rate. Some shooter games have shotgun class of weapons that are often devastating and powerful on short range, and usually one-shot kills. These are extremely effective weapons, especially if you are an aggressive type of player. However, you have to be quite close to the target for these guns to do the job for you. If you are not in a touching distance, then these guns wouldn't do much damage, rendering these guns useless. Then, you can also find the common heavy kind of weapons. These guns typically have large capacity and high fire rate, and they are basically designed to do lots of damages quickly. The only problem with these awesome weapons is that they are commonly less accurate, they take time to reload, and there are cases that your character will move slower while you are holding this gun, and this is because of their weight and size. In lots of shooter games, you can also encounter power weapons. These guns are typically heavy weapons that have slower fire rate and have devastating impact to their targets. Usually, they are being used to easily take out multiple enemies or vehicles with just one shot. A good example is the rocket launcher. Chapter 5. Maps. Synopsis. One of the most common essential elements that you can usually see in most shooter games is the maps. Well, this is very important in a game, for it serves as your guide within the place, making the shooting game much easier and convenient for you to play. However, it is essential that you know how to make good use of it for you to reap its maximum benefits in the game. Know and use the maps to your advantage. Knowing all about maps in the shooter game extremely well can prove to be very helpful, especially in some multiplayer games. But knowing well the terrains from any map can serve not only one purpose but actually more. In a single player as well as multiplayer shooter games, using the current environment inside the given map in order to avoid enemy attacks and take cover will be critical in staying alive within the game. Thus, you need to make use of the outlet that the environment and map offer you. Hiding behind barrels, ducking behind walls, or whatever it will take just to stay in a safe place. One good tip, most especially in time when you're taking heavy attack from the enemies, is for you to stay in cover until the time that you hear your enemies reload. Then that's the time that you should go out of your safe haven to blast the out while they're reloading. Maps serve an important function in the shooter games. Thanks to this map, you will be able to know your location, letting you roam around the area cautiously. Also, with the use of the maps, you can also see where the enemies are hiding, giving you a chance to build up a strategy. Another good thing about these maps is the fact that it shows you the different directions that you can take in order for you to successfully win the game. Imagine how hard the game could be without it. Imagine how confusing the place could be without the help of the maps. There are actually lots of advantages when you know how to read and analyze what the map is telling you. Thus, if you really love playing shooter games, then you should definitely teach yourself how to make good use of maps. Most shooter games, if not all, contain a map. In fact, this is actually one of the most essential parts of the game that most gamers continue to rely on during the game. Without it, shooter games will seem extremely difficult to play, most especially to the beginners. Maps are only present in shooter games but in other types of games as well. Well, it's among the most commonly sought after parts of the games that most gamers try to find instantly when they play a certain game. Now that you know how essential a map is in every shooter game, perhaps you should try practicing yourself whether you really are good in understanding and knowing the map. Chapter 6. Practicing. Synopsis. Practice makes perfect. Sure, it is an old cliche, but it usually holds true in most cases of game strategies, especially in shooter games. Of course, your first try of a shooting game can be intimidating and a mess, and you will more likely to find yourself killed more times as compared to being alive. However, as you essentially become quite familiar with this game, you will get better from time to time. And as time passes by, building up and enhancing your skills through effective practicing can help you become a good shooter. How to become a good player at shooter games. If you really love playing shooter games, then you can play lots of it online. There are actually different variations of this type of game, from common target shooting games to thrilling time-restricted precision games. Shooter games are one of the simplest, yet entertaining games common for boys. Well, it actually goes like this. If girls are fond of playing dress-up type of games, boys would prefer shooter games. It's very fun to enjoy and play this type of games, and this is specifically true to those who find themselves good at these. There are lots of skills and abilities needed in order to finish such a game, as most shooter games are multi-level games. Play level 1 successfully and you'll get to second level, and so on. You can beat shooter games through practicing. Factors that you should master. Accuracy. Accuracy is extremely essential in these games. You need to hit the target in least tries as possible. There are some shooter games that basically require reloading bullets. In this case, you are better off getting your shots essentially squared away, or else, your enemies will have better chance of hitting you, especially the moment that your bullets run out. So, if you want to be good at shooting games, practicing your accuracy is vital. Focus and presence of mind. Some shooter games are considered strategy games. This only means that you're not fixed at certain positions. Instead, you're actually moving and roaming around the area. The freedom of moving enables you to cautiously dodge the bullets, hide at places, or even kill enemies better and faster. However, you need to practice your skills at this also in reading the maps. Think like you are inside one military mission, think strategically in order to win the game. Remember, it takes time and practice before you get the hang of it. Upgrading your weapons also takes practice. In these shooter games, your fate actually relies mainly on the weapons. So, choosing the right guns is vital, and it also takes practice on your part. Wrong weapon choice can lead to disaster, so make the right choice. If you intend to burn the building, you don't use shotguns. Some shooter games enable player to change weapons. Practicing will make you a better player. Remember, shooter games are also strategic and skill games. You need to practice your hands and eyes for it. Playing these games few minutes a day can improve your skills and can make you even more familiar and expert in this game. Consider these tips, and you will see the difference. Practice really is essential in shooter games. Chapter 7. Single play or multiplay. Synopsis. The options for shooter games are quite endless online. There are single-play shooter games and there are also multiplayer shooter games available for you to choose. How about you? Which type suits you best, single-player or multiplayer? Well, it depends upon your personal preference. Single-play or multiplayer, the pros and cons. Shooter games fall into two categories: the single-play gaming and the multiplayer gaming. Single-play gaming is one of the most traditional forms of gaming, and it is what most gamers remember during childhood. Single-player shooting games are those games in which one person can actually play all through the levels toward completion. Multiplayer gaming, alternatively, is shooting games that basically rely on massive multiplayer experiences that are being facilitated through online connections. Multiplayer shooter games have numerous ranking systems, levels, as well as obstacles for gamers to navigate throughout either by themselves or in team. Multiplayer gaming in shooting games have advantages and disadvantages, but it's safe to state that it's currently the most sought after, leading gameplay for and preferred by thousands and thousands of players worldwide. Online gaming network is continuously growing. With more online connections being created every day, the gaming network is getting stronger day by day. Online gaming offers gamers with an excellent arena where they can easily improve their abilities and skills, enhance their capabilities in gaming, and also offers an excellent outlet for socialization. Multiplayer gaming also allows gamers to spend much less to entertainment. For a fee of few dollars per game, and the charge of established connection, gamers are provided countless hours to play. Unlike the traditional single-player gaming, multiplayer games can actually be played again and again. As online network and technology becomes stronger, shooting games are also becoming more advanced, lengthening the number of gameplay that's available. Single-player shooter games, alternatively, have a concept of completion. Lacks of replays value on single-player games make the gaming experience more expensive as compared to those with multiplayer platforms. Online gaming network is quite knit tightly, but this also means that there's lots of taking going on during the gaming sessions. Multiplayer games are also known for having problems and issues with players getting too much riled up. There's also very competitive atmosphere in multiplayer shooter games that do not exist in single-player shooter games. The great competitiveness of shooter games also lead to game addictions, which can easily take full control of one's life. Traditional shooter games, on the contrary, have lower instances of addiction because they do not feed into a need of competitiveness and they don't fulfill social aspects that multiplayer games actually do. Both single-player shooter games and multiplayer shooter games have their own advantages and disadvantages. Both of these gaming platforms offer gamers outlet for boredom and some sense of accomplishment while they work on through the levels of the games. The differences boil down to players' preferred platform of gaming. Chapter 8. Tournaments. Synopsis. Over the years, more and more online gamers are taking interest in online shooter games tournaments. The question is, what makes such tournaments so popular? Why do lots and lots of people take a part in these tournaments? Well, it's simple. It's fast, convenient, and easy to join and be a part of an excellent shooter game tournament. You just need is your computer and fast internet connection. Within minutes, you'll have a wide variety of shooting game tournaments. There is so much hype about shooter games tournaments. Many online gamers have been drawn and compelled to the absolute excitement of tournaments to discover who the best shooter is. However, online tournaments for shooter games have more to offer than just simply fighting in competition with another gamer. Variety is one huge factor that actually makes online shooting tournaments more exciting and fascinating. With all those options available, it is very easy to discover something that will catch your eye and will offer you something so interesting. You are not limited to just one kind of tournament. Well, you can actually choose among the many available options depending on your mood and your skills. One day, a shooter tournament may sound extremely inviting the time you go online, and the variety cannot be beaten and is definitely alluring. Shooting tournament games have all kinds of gamers from the different parts of the globe. This is one reason why these tournaments are very popular. Many players love the concept of playing and competing against other gamers who have common interests who are located from different countries around the globe. It can actually be fun, exciting all at the same time, interacting and meeting with new gamers that you would not otherwise have an opportunity of meeting. Not just that, many of these gamers spent years and years playing shooter games. Thus, you really have some great competition. With the many benefits that shooting game tournaments can offer, it is very easy to understand why they're becoming more and more popular. You can actually play any time of the day or even night, so you are basically not restricted to choosing a certain time and date. If you are in a good mood for an excellent shooter game, there is an always available option. And if you really love to have real tournaments of competition, this is a good way of meeting other gamers that can also give you runs for your hard-earned money. Additionally, online shooting tournaments are simply exciting and fun. If you have never played and competed in online tournaments, it is something that you may like to give some try. You may be surprised how fun and easy it could be. It's just a matter of finding tournaments that are suitable to your level of skills and expertise in shooter games. Chapter 9. The best shooter games. Synopsis. When it comes to shooter games, the options are quite limitless. For the past recent years, different shooting games have been released and gained positive feedbacks and comments from the avid gamers. Certain games are classified as the best shooter games, the all-time favorite, and most sought-after games. A list of the best shooter games online. Left 4 Dead. This is a first-person shooting game, with an action of survival and horror. This shooter game is available in single-play and multiplayer gaming. This game is set during the aftermath of apocalyptic pandemic, and it focuses on 4 survivors who are fighting against the undead. Dead Island. This shooting game is available in single-player and multiplayer. It is a zombie survival horror shooter game that is set in a fictional, tropical island resort that has also been infected by the epidemic that's quickly turning lots of people into zombies. Bulletstorm. This shooter game is also available in single player and multiplayer. This game takes place in the 26th century, in which gamers take on a role of former mercenary who was double-crossed by his own commander. Stuck on one planet that is far away, they must fight their way back to defeat the former commander. Rage. In Rage, the players will go into the future where humans struggle hard for survival after the asteroid collides with Earth. Being the lone survivor, Ark used as the final refuge right before that impact, players must battle against the hostile mutants. This game features great visuals, fantastic gun battles, and firefights. Counter-Strike. This shooter game is very popular. It is available in multiplayer and single gaming. This is by far one of the best, and the most exciting shooter games in which player will be able to test their shooting skills. These are just some of the most popular shooter games. There is actually a lot more out there for you to consider. Chapter 10. Learning to separate these games from reality. Synopsis. Yes, shooter games can offer you great excitement, fun, and entertainment. But, these games should be separated from reality. They should never be associated with your life or to another person's life. Shooter games are only games. Shooter games online were stereotyped as addictive and bad influence to both children and adults. But it's not necessarily true. Today, people do understand that these shooting games are not bad at all, as long as the kids and teens receive proper and adult supervision from their guardians and parents. As parents, they should seek for the suitable games that can offer maximum benefits to their kids. And it's usually essential for the gamers and players to practice discipline when they're playing. It is vital that you know what your limits are and to do your responsibilities in order for you to fully enjoy the best of both worlds. Thus, as a fan of shooter games, you should learn how to separate these games from reality. You should set your limits, and know when to stop and when to start. Yes, these games can offer a lot of benefits and advantages, but if not used and enjoyed properly, these games can lead to addiction and worse to violence. So, always remember that games are just games and it doesn't have to influence you in any that negatively affects your life.